They said I was losing my mind. I smiled because I was about to prove how sharp it still was. My name is Evelyn Hart, 68, retired high school logic teacher, widow of a quiet machinist who could fix anything but a broken heart. I live in the little blue house on Chestnut Street, the one with the creaky porch swing and the mailbox my husband painted the summer before he died. I keep my bills paperclip by due date, label my pantry alphabetically, and still beat anyone in town at crossword night. People confuse wrinkles with weakness. I let them. Daniel, my son, started calling me Mom in the voice he reserves for clients he plans to deny. Melissa, my daughter-in-law, showed up with a leather folder and a brochure as glossy as a magazine cover. Assisted living, it read in cheerful blues and greens, as if color could soften a cage. She laid it on my kitchen table like a placemat, right next to the coffee mug that still says Best Teacher from 1993. "It's time we talk about safety," Melissa said, smoothing her hair with her phone's reflection. "You forgot your pills twice last week." I didn't forget. I skipped one on purpose to see who was counting. "Twice?" I asked. "Isn't that curious?" Daniel cleared his throat. "Mom, we just want what's best. The house is too much. Stairs, bills, maintenance. We found a great place, meals included, medical staff on site. And the sooner we get you transitioned, the easier it'll be." Transitioned. I taught my students to flag euphemisms. They hide knives. I sipped my coffee and watched the steam curling up like a quiet warning. Melissa opened the folder, papers, tabs, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "There's a wait list," she said, "but if we put a deposit today, we can lock a unit with garden views." Garden views. I have an actual garden Alicia and I planted, tomatoes already staked, rosemary thick as a hedge. I wondered which unit would see them once I was gone. "I'll need to read everything," I said. "Carefully?" Melissa tapped a single page with a manicured nail. "This one's simple, just general permission so we can coordinate health decisions. It'll make appointments easier." I let my eyes drift across the heading without moving my head. Durable power of attorney in 12-point bold, snug as a trap. Not general, not simple, durable, the kind that keeps biting when you sleep. "You trust us, right?" Daniel said too quickly. I smiled at him the way I smiled at students who guessed without showing their work. "Of course I do," I said, and set the page aside like it burned less than it did. The clock over the stove ticked loud as a metronome. Outside, a crow hopped along the fence, tilted its head, and cawed once, like a heckler who'd paid for front-row seats. I folded my hands so they wouldn't shake from anger. Fear is noisy, strategy is quiet. "Why don't you leave these with me?" I said. "I'll review after lunch." Daniel exhaled like the meeting was over. Melissa slid the folder toward me, then hesitated just long enough to place a yellow sticky note on the front. "Sign here," it said with a smiley face. The face had too many teeth. They walked to the door, rehearsing reassurance. "You'll love the activities," Melissa chirped. "Chair yoga, movie nights, a craft room." After the door closed, I held the folder like a bomb and set it on the counter beside the flour canister. Then I opened the drawer under the phone, the one they never notice because it sticks. Inside, my late husband's pocket notebook, one purple pen, and a small black device with a single switch. A birthday gift from Alicia, my neighbor. A voice recorder shaped like a key fob. I clicked it on. A red dot lit like an ember. Some people measure love by visits and casseroles. Daniel and Melissa had begun to measure mine in square footage and resale value. Let them. If they thought I was drifting, they were about to meet the current. My phone buzzed on the counter. A new voicemail from an unknown number blinked onto the screen. "This is Carrie from Lakeside Notary, calling to confirm tomorrow at 2 for documents related to Miss Hart." The message ended with a pleasant chime. I stared at the folder, at the sticky smile with too many teeth, and at the red recording light steady as a heartbeat. Tomorrow at 2. Good, I thought, and slid the key fob recorder under the placemat where their brochure had sat. The crow cawed again. Class was about to begin. The next morning I woke early, the kind of morning light that makes the air feel like clean paper waiting for ink. I brewed my coffee, checked my recorder. The little red light was still on. Every word from yesterday was safe inside. At 8:07 a.m., my phone buzzed. Daniel again. Mom, Melissa and I are heading over around noon to take you to lunch before your appointment. Don't make other plans. He spoke like a boss scheduling an employee. Lunch sounds nice, I said. Bring your appetite. When I hung up, I called the only person who'd ever taught me to fight back with a smile, my late husband's old lawyer, Mr. Keene. He answered on the second ring, voice gravelly with age and patience. Evelyn Hart, he said. To what do I owe the pleasure? A bit of family housekeeping, I replied. I may need your eyes on something soon. Durable eyes, you could say. He chuckled, caught the meaning immediately. You're as sharp as ever. Bring me whatever they're waving under your nose. By 11, the house smelled of lemon cleaner and quiet panic. I'd placed the recorder in my cardigan pocket, just enough of the key fob chain visible to look like a charm. The folder sat on the table, open to the signature page. I'd left my reading glasses beside it for effect. When they arrived, Melissa's perfume hit the doorway first. Expensive, synthetic confidence. She wore a white blouse and a voice sweet enough to rot wood. Ready for lunch, Evelyn? I looked at her shoes, heels too high for sincerity, and smiled. Ready when you are. Daniel's eyes darted to the papers. Did you get a chance to review these? Every line, I said. Fascinating how words can change meaning when rearranged. Did you know care and control share 4 letters? He blinked, unsure if I was joking. Melissa stepped closer, sliding the folder toward me. We'll handle the details after lunch. The notary's meeting us at 2. All you'll have to do is sign. I nodded pleasantly and reached for my cardigan. Let's not keep her waiting. We drove in Daniel's SUV, the kind that smells like new debt. Melissa talked nonstop about amenities. On-site salon, meal plans, bingo nights. I kept nodding, counting the turns toward Lakeside Notary. When we arrived, the office was small, sterile, polite. A woman with a badge reading Carrie smiled too wide. Miss Hart, pleasure to meet you. We'll just get your authorization handled, then you can be on your way. Authorization, another euphemism. They ushered me to a glass desk. Papers waited. My reflection in the surface looked calm, not old, just measured. Melissa stood behind me, hand on my shoulder like a puppeteer steadying her marionette. This one first, Carrie said, then this acknowledgement. I lifted my pen, then hesitated. Forgive me, I said lightly, but do you mind if I read the full text aloud? Old habit from teaching, it helps me process. Carrie exchanged a look with Melissa, who nodded too fast. Of course, she said. So I read, every clause, every comma, each word that tried to bury meaning under politeness. By paragraph 3, Daniel was shifting in his seat. Melissa's smile had calcified. When I reached the line granting them authority to sell assets in the event of incapacity, I paused. What happens, I asked, if I never become incapacitated? No one answered. The silence hummed louder than the air conditioner. I smiled, signed my name slowly but carefully. Evelyn Hart, teacher of logic, survivor of marriage, mother of 2, fool of none. Carrie took the papers, notarized them with a stamp that sounded like a gavel. Daniel exhaled. There, he said. Now we can all relax. Relaxation, I said standing, is highly overrated before an exam. Melissa blinked. Exam? You'll see. I gathered my cardigan, the recorder still running, and smiled. Class resumes soon. Would you like me to proceed with part 3? Betrayal deepens next, and continue tracking total characters. Part 1 plus 2. Equal sign 4,456 plus 3,865 equals 8,321 chars so far? That night, the house felt wrong. Quiet wasn't supposed to have weight, but it pressed on me like a heavy book. The folder was gone from the kitchen counter. I searched every drawer, even the trash. Nothing. At 9:12 p.m., I opened my laptop and checked my email. A message from Daniel sat at the top. Mom, we've scanned your paperwork for safekeeping. Don't worry, we'll handle everything. Safekeeping. Another knife wrapped in cotton. I clicked my recorder, replaying the conversation from that afternoon. Every word came back crisp. Melissa's instructions, Carrie's approval stamp, Daniel's sigh of relief. Proof that I hadn't imagined the trap. Proof that they were setting it. Around midnight, I walked to the back porch. The air smelled like wet cedar. Alicia, my neighbor and closest friend, was outside watering her plants. She saw my face and frowned. "Something's wrong," she said. "They're moving fast," I told her, "too fast." Alicia's watering can froze mid-pour. "You think they're trying to take the house?" "I don't think," I said. "I know." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "What do you need?" "I need witnesses," I said, "and a safe copy of something they can't erase." We spent the next hour transferring the recorder's audio files to a flash drive, labeling each one by time and date. I wrote a note on the envelope. "If anything happens to me, give this to Mr. Keene." Alicia nodded without asking questions. That's why I trusted her. She listened first. The next morning, I tested a theory. I called Daniel from the landline. "Morning, Mom," he answered, cheerful in that performative way people use when guilt still tastes fresh. "I couldn't sleep," I said. "Could you bring the folder back? I realized I missed a few sections." He hesitated. "Actually, Melissa has it. She's meeting with our banker today to get some advice on future planning." Future planning. They weren't waiting for signatures. They were already moving assets. My heart thudded, steady but cold. "That's fine," I said. "Tell her to keep it safe." After we hung up, I called Mr. Keene. "They've already taken it," I said. He sighed, long and tired. "You signed under false representation. We can contest that, but I'll need hard proof." "You'll have it," I told him. By noon, Alicia helped me install a small camera inside my living room lamp, motion-activated, connected to her Wi-Fi. We aimed it at the desk where Daniel usually sat with his laptop. Then I left the house unlocked, just a little, and placed a sticky note on the fridge. "Went to pharmacy. Back by 3. At 12:47 p.m., the camera caught what I expected. Daniel entered first, Melissa right behind him, both whispering like burglars rehearsing civility. "Do you think she'll notice if we transfer the utilities first?" Melissa asked. "She'll be at that care place by next week," Daniel said. "Once the notary files, it's official." He opened his laptop, typing passwords with the ease of practice. That was all I needed. Alicia texted me the footage, time-stamped, clear audio and video. I forwarded it straight to Mr. Keene with a single line. "Lesson plan complete, ready for next phase." Then I deleted the message, locked my phone, and exhaled. They thought I was losing my mind. They were about to see how dangerous a logical mind could be when cornered. 2 days later, I was admitted to Lakeside Haven, the assisted living community Melissa kept praising like a resort. In truth, it felt like a waiting room for people whose lives had been mislabeled as finished. A nurse named Carla met me at the door. "Don't worry, sweetie," she said, taking my purse like I might lose it. I smiled thinly. They always call you sweetie when they're about to take something else. My room smelled of bleach and air freshener. The window overlooked a parking lot instead of the promised garden view. On the nightstand sat a printed schedule. Bingo 10 a.m., chair yoga 2 p.m., lights out 9 p.m. They'd planned my days down to bedtime like a syllabus for surrender. That first evening, I asked for my phone. Carla frowned. "Your family said you might get confused with electronics, honey. We'll keep it safe at the front desk." I nodded slowly, filing away each phrase. "Your family said." Dinner was chicken mush and instant potatoes. I ate half, listening to the conversations around me. People talking to nurses as if they were children begging parents for permission. When the lights dimmed, I sat by the window and watched headlights cross the asphalt like ghosts escaping. The next morning, Daniel visited alone. He brought tulips, already wilting. "Mom," he said, "this place will help you relax. Melissa's working on sorting out the bills. We just want you comfortable." I looked at him, really looked, and realized comfort was his synonym for compliance. "I'm comfortable enough," I said. He smiled, relief flashing in his eyes. He thought I'd accepted defeat. When he left, I noticed my checkbook missing from the drawer where I'd left it. That night, I sat in the dark and let the fear come. Fear of isolation. Fear that logic and evidence wouldn't matter once the world decided I was incompetent. I thought of my husband, the way he'd squeezed my hand before his surgery and said, "Don't let them write your ending, Evie." The tears came fast, sharp, then stopped just as fast. Crying wastes water, and gardeners hate waste. I stared at the security camera blinking in the hallway and whispered, "If you're watching, take notes. The lesson isn't over." Then I reached under my pillow and touched the tiny USB Alicia had smuggled in during her visit. Inside it was everything: the recordings, the footage, the timestamp files. Proof that I was sane. Proof that they weren't. For the first time since this began, I allowed myself to sleep. Because I finally understood something every teacher learns eventually. The quiet before a test isn't failure, it's preparation. When I woke the next morning, sunlight cut across the wall in bright stripes. For the first time, it didn't feel like a cage. It looked like a grid, something that could be solved. I took my notebook from under the pillow and began writing steps, just like I'd taught my students. Identify the problem, gather data, design an experiment, present evidence, grade the results. By breakfast, I already had my syllabus for revenge. At 9, I told Carla I wanted to speak with the facility director about donating some books to the library. It was the perfect cover. No one suspects generosity. They gave me access to the administrative office for half an hour. While pretending to check shelf space, I plugged Alicia's flash drive into the computer and emailed Mr. Keene every file. Audio, video, timestamps, everything. Then I sent a short message. Subject, midterm report. They forged consent, seized assets, and removed phone access. Phase 2 begins today. I slipped the flash drive back into my sweater and returned to my room. 2 hours later, Mr. Keene called on the facility landline. His voice came through calm and steady. "Evelyn, I've reviewed everything. It's airtight. We'll move fast. You need one more thing: medical confirmation that you're mentally competent. It'll end any argument they try to raise." "I thought you'd say that," I replied. "I already have a plan." At noon, Lakeside Haven hosted its usual volunteer health screening. I signed up. When the nurse asked routine questions, I answered each with clipped precision: date, place, memory recall, logic puzzles. I even corrected her math on one of the forms. She laughed. "You could teach this stuff." "I did," I said, and she wrote fully oriented in her notes. After lunch, I called Alicia through the front desk phone, pretending it was about my plants. "Tomatoes are fine," she said. Code for Keene received the files. "Tell the lawyer to prepare the soil," I answered. "We're planting evidence." That evening, I was escorted to a cognitive check scheduled by my family. Melissa had apparently requested it to confirm her guardianship paperwork. I smiled at the irony. The evaluator, a young psychiatrist named Dr. Levin, introduced himself politely. "Mrs. Hart, I just need to ask a few questions to evaluate your cognitive function." "Of course," I said. "But if I pass, do I get extra credit?" He smiled. We went through word recall, drawing clocks, explaining proverbs. When he asked me to count backward by sevens, I added a demonstration of prime factoring just to amuse myself. After 20 minutes, he closed his notebook. "You're sharper than half my residents," he said. "Would you like a copy of my report?" "Yes," I said. "Please send it to my attorney, Mr. Keene." His eyebrows rose slightly, but he nodded. "Understood." That night, I lay awake, tracing my plan across the ceiling like constellations. Step 1, medical competence verified. Step 2, legal proof in Keene's hands. Step 3, let them act, record every move. Step 4, strike when documentation is complete. The hardest part was patience. Teachers and chess players share that trait. We both know a premature move costs the game. As the hallway lights dimmed, I whispered to the empty room, "Tomorrow they'll think they've won." That's when the lesson starts. And in the silence that followed, the hum of the vent sounded almost like applause. The next day began like any other at Lakeside Haven: lukewarm oatmeal, pastel walls, and the faint scent of disinfectant and denial. But today, I wasn't a resident. I was an undercover witness preparing her own trial. At 10 a.m., Melissa arrived with her clipboard smile. "Good news, Evelyn. Your transfer papers cleared faster than expected. You'll have your permanent suite by Friday." "Wonderful," I said, folding my napkin. "I do prefer efficiency." Behind her, Daniel lingered, avoiding my eyes. He looked tired, maybe from guilt, maybe from paperwork. "Mom, once we finalize everything, things will calm down. You'll see." I gave him the same look I used to give failing students, the one that said, "You have no idea what exam you're taking." After breakfast, I asked Carla for a walk outside. I carried my cardigan, inside it, the key fob recorder now paired with a new companion, a miniature body cam Alicia had mailed in a box of cookies. The lens peeked through a stitched hole at my chest pocket. When we reached the garden, I saw Melissa at a bench, phone pressed to her ear. She was talking to someone about liquidating assets and early wire transfers. Her voice was bright, careless, greedy. The body cam blinked red, every syllable recorded. At noon, Mr. Keene called the facility front desk and asked for me by name. The nurse handed me the phone. "Evelyn," he said, "everything's in place. I've filed an injunction to freeze your accounts. They won't be able to touch a dime until a judge reviews competency. But we'll need one final piece, visual confirmation of coercion. Can you manage that?" "Consider it homework," I said. By 2 o'clock, Melissa returned with a new notary, this one unfamiliar. She carried another folder thicker than before. "We just need to redo a few signatures, purely procedural," she said. "The bank requested updated forms." "Of course," I said sweetly. "I wouldn't want any errors." They seated me at a small table in the lounge. The body cam caught everything. Melissa whispering to the notary, Daniel nodding nervously, my steady hand as I pretended to sign while pressing the pen's hidden clicker to mark timestamps. Halfway through, Melissa leaned close. "Once this is done, you can rest easy. No more responsibilities." "Rest," I said softly, "is the privilege of the innocent." She blinked. "What?" "Nothing, dear. Keep reading." When it was finished, she gathered the pages quickly, slipping them into her briefcase. I stood, careful to steady myself on my cane, the cane whose handle held the second hidden camera. The footage from both devices fed to Alicia's laptop in real time. 10 minutes later, she texted me one word: "Got it." By evening, Melissa and Daniel left satisfied, certain they'd secured my fate. I sat by the window watching their SUV disappear through the gates, headlights flashing like a false dawn. Carla came by with my dinner tray. "Big day, sweetie?" I smiled. "Bigger than you think." When she left, I took out my old lesson planner and wrote across the page in purple ink, "Experiment results. Phase 2. Subjects demonstrated coercion, overconfidence, and poor foresight. Evidence captured. Visual, audio, time-stamped. Next phase, submission to court." I underlined submission to court twice, capped the pen, and closed the notebook. Outside, thunder rolled over the lake, slow and promising. Tomorrow, I thought, the storm moves indoors. The storm arrived the next morning exactly on schedule, rain against the windows, wind shaking the flags outside Lakeside Haven, and my phone ringing at 9:01 a.m. "Mrs. Hart," said a male voice, "this is Judge Whitmore's clerk. There's an emergency hearing at 2 this afternoon regarding guardianship filings under your name. Can you attend?" "I wouldn't miss it for the world," I said. Carla insisted on escorting me, unaware that Mr. Keene had already arranged a private car. I left the facility wearing my best gray suit, the one I'd kept boxed for funerals or battles. It fit perfectly. When we entered the courthouse, Daniel and Melissa were already seated beside their attorney, a young man who looked like he'd practiced empathy in front of a mirror. Melissa turned, her expression mixing surprise and irritation. "Mom, you look well." "Surprising, isn't it?" I replied. Judge Whitmore, a compact man with white hair and a voice built for order, called the session to start. "Case number 47B, petition for guardianship over Miss Evelyn Hart, filed by Daniel Hart and Melissa Hart, citing diminished capacity and financial mismanagement." I almost laughed. Financial mismanagement? The woman who balanced budgets for 30 years of teaching, now accused of losing count. Their lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, our clients only wish to ensure Miss Hart's safety and proper handling of her estate. There have been incidents of confusion and erratic behavior." "Examples?" the judge asked. Melissa produced a folder with tabs. Missed medication, misplaced bills, impulsive spending. She looked straight at me, and she's been recording conversations without consent. I smiled slightly. "Evidence gathering, dear. Perfectly legal when you're the participant?" The lawyer frowned. "Your Honor, sit down," the judge said. Mr. Keene rose. His gray suit had more wrinkles than his client's, but his voice could cut glass. Your Honor, my client may have wrinkles, but confusion isn't one of them. She has documented proof of coercion, forgery, and fraudulent intent by both petitioners. Melissa scoffed. That's ridiculous. Keene clicked a remote and the courtroom screen flickered to life. First came audio. Melissa's voice at the notary's office. We'll handle everything after she signs. Then Daniel's. She won't remember any of this in a week. The gallery murmured. Then came the video. Melissa whispering to the notary, Daniel pacing, my hand signing calmly while the timestamp blinked on screen. The judge leaned forward, expression unreadable. Where did this footage come from? He asked. From Miss Hart's personal devices, Keene said. Both legally hers, recording her own interactions. The originals are in secure evidence storage. Melissa's attorney tried to object, but the judge waved him off. Overruled. Continue. Next came the footage from my living room. Daniel at my desk, Melissa discussing utility transfers and property listings. The judge's eyebrows rose higher with each line. When the screen went dark, silence filled the room like fog. Keene handed up the final document. Exhibit G, Dr. Levin's psychiatric report, declaring Miss Hart fully competent, cognitively intact, and I quote, capable of teaching logic to the entire court. A chuckle rippled through the audience. Melissa's face drained of color. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed again. Judge Whitmore exhaled slowly. I assume, Mr. Keene, you have a motion? Yes, Your Honor. Motion to dismiss the guardianship petition and to freeze the petitioner's access to any of Miss Hart's financial accounts pending investigation of fraud. Granted, said the judge without hesitation, effective immediately. Melissa stood, voice trembling. Your Honor, we were only trying to help yourselves, it seems, he interrupted. You may step down. The gavel struck once, case dismissed, but the real turning point came moments later outside the courtroom. Daniel followed me into the hallway, rain dripping from the skylight onto the marble floor. Mom, he said quietly, we didn't mean for it to go this far. I turned to him. Intent matters in class, Daniel. In life, results do. Melissa approached, eyes red, voice small. What will happen now? I looked between them, my son and his wife, two people who once brought me birthday cards and now brought me lawsuits. Now, I said, now you'll see what consequence looks like in writing. They watched as Mr. Keene handed them each a sealed envelope. You'll receive official notice tomorrow, he said. What notice? Daniel asked. The civil investigation into your petition, I said, and the injunction against your access to my property. Consider it your midterm grade. Melissa's lips trembled. You're destroying our lives. No, I said softly. You did that the moment you underestimated mine. I walked past them toward the courthouse doors, the rain cooling my face. For the first time in months, the air smelled like freedom, sharp, honest, earned. Behind me, Daniel's voice cracked. Mom, wait, please. I didn't, because the test was over, and their results were final. 2 weeks after the hearing, I returned home. The blue house on Chestnut Street smelled like dust and lavender, a mix of memory and survival. The porch swing creaked as if it recognized me. Inside, everything was exactly where I'd left it, except peace, which had finally come back. Mr. Keene sat at the kitchen table with his briefcase open. It's done, he said. The district attorney accepted the fraud charges. The bank reversed every unauthorized transfer. You're clear, Evelyn. And them? I asked. Frozen accounts, pending restitution. The judge ordered community service at a facility of your choosing. I smiled slowly. Oh, I have just the place. Lakeside Haven's administrator nearly dropped her clipboard when she saw me walk in, wearing a tailored navy jacket and heels that meant business. Mrs. Hart, you've recovered. Better than recovered, I said. I'm the new owner. Bought it through a charitable trust. Effective today, it's the Keene Center for Dignity. Within hours, staff gathered for introductions. Daniel and Melissa arrived the next morning, escorted by a social worker. They'd been assigned 6 months of service as part of their restitution. Daniel in maintenance, Melissa in resident coordination. Melissa's eyes widened when she saw the sign above the door, the Keene Center for Dignity, founded by Evelyn Hart. She swallowed hard. Mom, this is, you own it? I prefer the term govern. Daniel looked down, voice hoarse. We're sorry. Apology accepted, I said. But forgiveness takes attendance. 6 months, full shifts, no shortcuts. Their faces said what their pride couldn't. They nodded. I walked them through the halls they'd once toured as my captors. Residents smiled, nurses whispered. Some even applauded quietly as we passed. That evening, I sat in the director's office, the one with the view of the lake they'd promised me. Rain streaked the window like punctuation marks. Alicia arrived with tea and a grin. You really did it, she said. No, I said. I just finished grading the exam. She laughed. So what's next, Professor? New curriculum, I said. We'll use this center to teach families how to handle power with compassion. Maybe my story will help others before greed takes the wheel. She nodded. You're remarkable. Evelyn. I shrugged. Just logical. Outside, Daniel was cleaning the walkway, Melissa distributing dinner trays. They looked smaller, humbled. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, justice didn't need my approval. It just needed proof. I opened my old purple pen and wrote the final line in my notebook. Never underestimate an old teacher with a lesson plan and evidence. Then I closed it for good. A month later, the center held its dedication ceremony. Reporters came, cameras flashed, and someone asked how it felt to turn betrayal into purpose. I smiled at the lens. It feels like winning the quiet kind of war, I said. The one where you don't destroy your enemies, you educate them. I looked out across the lawn where residents strolled in the evening light. The wind carried the sound of laughter instead of gossip. For the first time in a long while, I felt exactly where I belonged. If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories Women 65 Plus USA, because stories like mine deserve to be heard.